Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Welcome to Tuesday and episode number, Mara, what episode number is this?
361.
Ooh, 361. That's pretty good. I gotta hand it to people. I wish we could give out awards for people who've been here. Some people have not missed episodes. Should get them a special Wisdom of the Sages trophy.
You could pass out awards. Why not? No one's stopping you.
Yeah. Now I can't hear you, Kaustubha.
Really?
What's up with you? Everything good with you?
Yeah.
New York?
Sure. Everything's fine.
Had a good story. Kaustubha doesn't want me to tell it. He thinks it's too gross. He thinks it's too gross for the morning. But I think that it's just fine.
Okay.
Because I didn't make up the story. It's a story about how we see people in their external way. We fall in love. We base our life around externals. And so I wanted to share a very deep, important story called Liquid Beauty. You know, I used to say this on stage in my shelter days.
Is everyone grossed out?
Was grossed out, but at those hardcore shows, you could say some gross things and people appreciate it. Look at all the hardcore people's ears are perking up right now. Sarah Koretsky's on the edge of her seat, like, yeah, gross stories. No stage diving. Okay, check this out. So a man sees this very beautiful woman. He said, "Oh my God, this woman is so beautiful." And she says, "Oh, you want my beauty?" He says, yes, I'm mad about you. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. We should get to know each other. He says, "Oh, if you want my beauty, you will come back and I will give it to you." And so he's all excited. He's thinking she's going to give herself to me. She goes, "Come back in 2 weeks." So in those 2 weeks, she took special herbs that would make her purge, eliminate, vomit. And she kept all of her, I guess this is a gross story. I haven't told it in 20 years.
It finally sinks in.
She kept all her vomit and stool in a clay jars, because she was taking these herbs and she fasted. And she became emaciated. And she put them in, she covered these jars. And I tell you, when you don't do stuff like that for 2 weeks and fast like that, the guy came back and he said, he's looking for his girl. She said, "Come back in 2 weeks." He put on some cologne. He combed his hair. He got a little beard trimming going, got some beard and mustache wax.
Mustache wax. I never heard that detail in the story. But
I know. I'm making the story better.
Okay.
And then he came back and he saw this emaciated, skinny woman, and he said, "Hi, I'm looking for a lady here. I'm supposed to meet here. I had a special date with her.
Very beautiful
lady." And he said, "I think I'm that lady you're looking for." He goes, No, not you. She looked a little bit different than you look. She was quite lovely." He said, No, that's me. And the guy started looking closely. He goes, "That is you. what happened to you? What? You just 2 weeks ago, you were like breathtaking. And she said, well, you've fell in love with me for my beauty. So if the beauty is what you want, I've saved all the beauty for you. It's in these jars. And she brought out these stinky jars. This is
She
my
had
beauty.
many of them, like she was
She had
keeping
many jars. She kept them on shelves in her cabinet.
Couldn't she have just kept it like in one pot?
She didn't have a very big pot, so she kept many small old jars. Yeah, like anyway, the point is our beauty is based in our beauty is based in just, it's called liquid beauty. We're falling in love. This is what we base our whole life on. And you know what? If we fall in love with flesh quickly, based on beauty, love soon dies. That's Shakespeare. I stole that from a shelter lyric as well. Based on beauty, love soon dies. We're always looking for something more subtle in our spiritual life and in our love life, even love in the material world. If it's based on externals, it goes away quick. And sometimes it's deeply rooted in us. Even you know, Goethe, who's considered like the most enlightened person all of Europe, you know, very deep person. In his old age, he fell in love with a teenager. You know that story?
I don't.
Yeah. What did you're an academic. What did Goethe write?
Me?
Mara.
Oh, okay.
Faust
I don't
or
know.
something? Faust? Come on.
Sorry.
We
What
need
do
help
they
from the,
teach you in that
from the
school?
Germans.
Ask the Europeans. Maybe they know.
Europeans, Goethe. War and no, not War and Peace. He wrote Faust. I think.
Faust.
Yeah, Jason Stace says so too.
All right, thank you. All right. Anyway, that was my, you know, it sounds much grosser now that I'm 55, but I think it's a good point.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I know you wouldn't have taken it there, but I did it. Kaustubha, we are in the third canto today, and we've got some beautiful, beautiful things for people to hear. What is our verse number? We're in chapter 3.
We're starting the chapter, actually, chapter 4.
Oh, chapter 4.
Yeah, we never
Canto
started
3,
yesterday.
chapter 4. Oh, we never started. You know what? I got a lot of comments on yesterday's show about the ego, the sneakiness of the ego.
The sneakiness of the ego. Is that what we're talking about? No, I can't even remember right now.
I can't even remember either, but everyone's like, that was dynamic, that class.
We were talking about thieves and prostitutes and all of that. About how we shouldn't be judgmental. Because tricks of chance occur in life.
Tricks of chance. And then also, and how we even use the ego for our own, you know, when we do something in our spiritual life. Now I'm waking up early, and now someone said, you know, I used to go on the show, not because I'd even listened to the show well on Zoom, but I wanted that validation from the other Zoomers and from you and Kaustubha that I'm here at 5 a.m. But I'd be nodding off. Better I would just listen later on in the day as an other. The others are actually quite humble. They get no validation from me.
Validate the others, Raghu.
I do. The others are quite wonderful. Okay. So anyway, that's a thing too. Even in our spiritual life, that ego is like, always driving. And that's a beautiful thing about bhakti. It's not that austerity, which can come very filled with ego. It's not that austerity is the thing that's praised by Krishna. Krishna doesn't care if you're austere. Krishna wants to see where your heart is at. Isn't that great? We all have that opportunity to trade in our ego for our heart.
Yeah, but that's going to kind of get towards today's theme a bit, you know, which is have to do with desire, right?
Yeah, desire.
Right, and one way to respond to desire is to try to annihilate it, right? To try to see, so many problems stem from my desire, right? Some yogis will have that strategy, but in you know what comes out in fully in Bhagavatam is that desire is really something that's innate to the self. So it's not a question of giving up all desire, but it's a question of what you do with that desire, right?
Yeah. The Buddha said the root of the suffering is desire. The root of all our pain. There is no fear. I'm getting another Buddhist quote here. There's no fear for one whose mind is not filled with desire. So desire.
So right, but it's that kind of quote, to me that leads to the idea that let's just remove all desire.
I get it.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
right.
I get it. Also, but in Bhakti, it's quite different.
Yeah.
And I hate to bring it back to Shelter again, but Shelter had an answer for that. Our first album was called The Perfection of Desire.
Right.
You can't get rid of desire. It's like the football.
Okay.
Right? You can't get, no. I mean,
You
like
can't get rid of a football.
You can't hold the football underwater.
Or like the soccer ball, right? Like even more so with
the soccer ball is even better.
Yeah.
Soccer ball, bloop, comes right back up. But just bloops right back up.
You
can try to hold it underwater.
Yeah.
So you can try to hold that thing underwater, but it's going to bloop back up. We can't eliminate desire because our very nature is we desire. All you can do is refine what you desire. It makes so much sense.
Well, let's get into it, huh? Shall we
Okay.
start reading?
Yeah. This is Vidura approaches Maitreya. Narayanam Namaskrit.
No. Oh, well, yeah. Okay, that's the name of the chapter. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were setting up because he's not. Maitreya hasn't quite shown up yet. All right, great. Please.
Narayanam Namaskritya. Nuram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tatojayam Mudirayit. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, that's what we're doing, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyanatamurandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Offer my respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of my spiritual masters, who have opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the ointment of knowledge. Okay, Vidura approaches Maitreya is the name of the chapter 4.
Mm-hmm.
Dive
You
in.
want to go back and forth on these?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's pretend.
set it off.
Let's do it. Let's do a dramatic reading by Raghunath and Kaustubha.
Okay. And so this, we're hearing that right now it's Uddhava speaking to Vidura.
Okay, you got to speak like Uddhava if it's your turn to do Uddhava.
All right.
Thereafter, all of them, the descendants of the Vrishni and Bhoja, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of the prasad and also drank liquor made of rice.
Mm-hmm.
What? Sake? They're drinking sake? By
Something
drinking, they all became delirious and bereft of knowledge. They touched the cores of each other's hearts with harsh words.
Yeah.
Words
so
can really kill.
They can. And so, again, we're hearing the description of the disappearance of the bewildering and mysterious disappearance of the Yadu dynasty. Okay, then as by the friction of bamboos, destruction takes place. So also at sunset, by the interaction of the faults of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place.
I love how they use these analogies that we don't even know of, not living in the tropics. Like bamboos, when they get blown together and they rub together, they ignite fire.
Right.
That's one way forest fires start.
And so here, just as a forest fire isn't caused by any external kind of cause, so the idea was that the Yadus were so powerful, no one could wipe them out. They had to wipe themselves out, just like bamboo may.
Acha, you're good. You're good. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, after seeing the end of his family by his internal potency, went to the bank of the river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree, the people tree.
Sometimes it said people. Sometimes it said that it's a banyan. You hear both?
That didn't. Were you not even listening to me yesterday, Prabhu?
I don't know. You're
The
saying they're the same
banyan
thing.
tree is religioso ficus, ficus religioso, which is the people, which is the banyan, which is the ashvata.
You're telling me there's absolutely no difference between a people and a banyan. Zero difference. That's what you're
Fair.
telling me right now. You ready to
telling you.
ready to lay that on the line right here
ready to lay that-
publicly?
I'm absolutely positive.
Okay. All right, Mara, you do a little investigation. Let's see if we can.
Now I'm gonna have to remind everybody to the time your guru trained me in speculation and when not to speculate.
Okay.
When I came back from the food store, and he said, "Where's the horseradish?" I was like, "They didn't have any." And he said, "Are you sure?" I said,
I
"Yeah."
checked. Yeah.
I looked. He goes, "Are you sure? Did you ask anyone? Are you positive? Are you absolutely positive they had no horseradish?" And I was like, "No." And he just said, "Speculation, speculation, Dr. Ray. You are a speculator." That's how I got trained in Bhakti.
Okay.
I got chastised severely for speculating.
Okay.
So I can absolutely say Mara's doing fact checking right now. She is. Are you?
She's working hard on it. I haven't seen her work so hard on anything in a long
There you
time.
go. She didn't fact check that Faust, did she?
Okay.
It was one click away. Goethe, works of Goethe. Nothing. We don't ask much from her. No, we pile on the workload of Mara. We just want to. By the way, the Saraswati does not officially flow to the eyes. Actually, it does. It comes out of its sources in Badrinath, but it used to go all the way down and connect with Prayag, where
The Ganges and Yamuna meet.
where the Ganges and Yamuna, and that's why they call it Triveni, or that's where the Kumbh Mela is. Now they say it's there mystically. It's not there, but it's mystically. But it dried up, and a lot of, I don't know if it's archaeologists or something, they can see where the Saraswati flows, and because it's mentioned in the Vedic text, they can even date the Vedas from seeing that river, that dried riverbed. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, so in other words, because they mentioned that that's where the river flowed, it had to be written prior to the end of that flow. Interesting.
Something like that.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
You have a kind of a side interest in this kind of thing.
I'm fascinated with India. I think I was some type of Hindu in a previous life.
a Hindu, like some kind of Hindu nationalist. Is that what you were?
Maybe I was
Kind
an
of
incarnation
pride,
of
right?
Shivji.
You fought in Shivji's army?
Chhatrapati. Shivji Chhatrapati.
Maybe. Okay, let's stick with the subject here.
Okay.
Text 4. The Lord is the vanquisher of the distresses of one who is surrendered unto him. Thus, he who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badaka Ashram. So Uddhava was saying Krishna foresaw the destruction of this dynasty, and so Krishna's telling Uddhava, you should go, just avoid the whole thing, and go to Badaka, go up to the holy places where you can meditate on me.
And that's where the Vedas were compiled. That's where we do the
Great souls.
Yeah.
A lot of great.
That's where Vyasadev's cave is in Badarik Ashram. Thus following text 6.
Text
5. Yet in spite of my knowing his desire, O Vidura, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear separation from the lotus feet of the master.
So Krishna said, avoid this whole destruction of the dynasty. Go up to Badaka Ashram. And so he went on his way, but then he said, no, I got to go see Krishna one more time. And so he says, thus following, I saw my patron, the master, Lord Sri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of the river Saraswati, although he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune.
Text 7. The Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the supreme personality of Godhead by his 4 hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments.
The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, and although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture.
You know what I've been doing lately, Kaustubha? I've been trying to picture Krishna.
Yeah.
You know, usually I picture Krishna, I picture like the very cartoonishy, because he's always painted in very cartoonish ways with cartoonish cowherd friends and cartoonish cows. I'm trying to picture him like in a real life photograph, like what Krishna would look like walking in the room. You know what I mean? And it's different. Like what the skin tone of he's darkish, right? Is he bluish? Is he light blue? Is he black? What, you know, I'm trying to picture that in my meditation.
Okay. How's it working?
It's tough. It's tough because for years I've just had cartoony Krishna in my mind. So I think it's better. I think it's good.
Okay. Let me know how that progresses.
Okay, thank you.
keep me up to date with that. At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya. Now this is important because Maitreya is a sage that's going to become, Vidura is going to go and meet Maitreya.
One of the speakers of the Bhagavatam.
Yeah, because right now Uddhava's inquiring from Vidura. I'm sorry, Vidura's inquiring from Uddhava, but Uddhava's going to say, you know what? You should talk to Maitreya. He witnessed my whole conversation with Krishna. He knows the whole thing. And I'm going to take off now, and you can go talk to him. So Maitreya shows up, and he hears this whole conversation that takes place between Krishna and Uddhava. So he says, at that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, reached that spot out of his own perfect accord.
Good trivia question. Why is he called Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas?
You're asking me? I can tell you why.
Yeah, you got that? Maybe Krishna Drew knows that. Throw that out to the
Krishna
trivia.
Drew? Let's see if Krishna Drew knows.
The trivia. What do you call them? At the Apple Store? The Genius Squad or whatever.
They have the geniuses.
The Mac Geniuses.
Is she
The
here?
Veda
Vivi
Geniuses.
knows.
Vivi knows. All right. Let's see. What did she say? Why is he called Dvaipayana Vyas?
Born on a lake. Parmananda says island born.
Island. Born on an island.
Yeah.
Because his father, the story is the father is Parashara.
Right.
And wait a second. Dvaipayana Vyas.
Yeah. Parsar Muni.
Parshar Muni, I think he got attracted to the boat, the lady crossing in the boat.
What was her name? Satyavati.
Oh, Satyavati. I'm sorry, Satyavati. And yes, and so Satyavati, he wanted to have sex with her, and then there was probably a nicer way to say that, but I was like, that's the first thing that came out. He wanted to have sex with her, and she said, "I can't have sex with you in a boat." And he said, and she said, "Don't worry, you're going to retain your virginity." It was one of these mystical.
It's a high level union.
High level, we can't understand this type of sex, mental sex, something like that. And anyway, the child was born immediately on this island, and then it was raised by sages. That was Vyas. And Krishna, because he was very dark skinned. Krishna also means dark skinned.
Mm-hmm. Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. So Vyasa, the one again who compiled all the literature that we're reading, including Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Now here's a trivia for you. Why is it mentioned here that he's a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, Maitreya? What's the connection between Maitreya and Vyasa?
What is their connection? They were schoolhood chums.
Yeah, basically they were. They were both disciples of Parsar Muni.
Their father. The father is Parsar
Vyasa's father and Maitreya's guru.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. Parshar was the one who's famous for Jyotish. He came up with if you're into Vedic astrology, Parshar is the guy. The Hara Shastras they're called.
And Brigu, he came later.
Brigu is a whole different branch of astrology.
Okay, so there's
Brigu
two ways to
astrology.
go. Right.
There's 2 ways to check your future. Now, there's many ways to check your future. Ganesh, palm reading. Ganesh, face reading.
Okay. Even they read the eyes, right?
I've never heard that, but
Oh yeah.
that's iridology.
Well, maybe that's more like a health thing. That's more like
That's a health thing.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's keep going. Let's not get sidetracked here. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, now it's your verse. You read.
All right, what
10.
text were you?
Text
10. Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude with his shoulder lowered. What?
I guess he was
With a
just like, you know,
Like humbly listening.
leaning
With
in.
a leaning in. Okay.
Something like that.
With his okay. With a smile and particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows. Text 11.
Okay. Let's focus on this verse today. You ready?
Yeah.
He said, "Oh Vasu." Now, why is he calling him Vasu? We're gonna.
Who's speaking to who here?
Oh no, actually no. This is the Lord. Well, he said the Lord spoke as follows. So this is Krishna speaking to Uddhava. But we're gonna find out why he calls him Vasu right now. He says, "Oh Vasu,
Okay.
yeah, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desired to achieve my association. This is very difficult for others to obtain, but I awarded it unto you." Okay. So now what's being described here is that in his first of all, who are the Vasus? Do you know about the Vasus?
The Vasus are attendant deities of Indra or Vishnu.
Mm-hmm.
The Ashtavasus, the 8 Vasus,
8
are
Vasus.
described in the Ramayana as the children of Kashyapa and Aditi. And
You
the
did some
Mahabharata.
research on this, didn't you? I mean,
Come
that
on,
answer is
man.
too good.
Well, you know why? The Vasus are because they reappear again and again. Like Bhishma is one of the Vasus.
Yes.
So basically, it's some backstory. They're like these elemental beings. Like there's Prithvi, the earth is a Vasu. Agni is a Vasu. Vayu is an Asu. Varuna, Aditya.
Earth, fire, wind, yeah.
Diao, sky, also known
Sky.
as Akash.
Yeah.
Chandramas, I can't remember. And Nakshrani, the stars.
Okay, so it's earth, fire, wind, water, sun, sky, moon, and stars. Each one of them is a Vasu, right?
Yeah.
They got responsibilities. These are the different departments: the water department, the heat department, right? The lighting, and so on.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they're and you know, and a side note, this is all very beautiful that all these things that we just take for granted, they are beings. And in the Vedic paradigm, we give like I do it. They give the Vedas give personality behind everything. I love that. I love that concept. Everything is a being. And therefore, once it becomes a being, you have to give it some type of respect. And you have to extend some type of dignity to a being. It's in our depersonalizing of beings is we create havoc in this world. We go into a slaughterhouse. Think about a butcher. You can't think of that animal as a being. You have to look at it as a thing. And once you give it beingness, you have to give it some type of dignity, or else you start to feel horrible about what you're doing. You know.
So what did you say? The depersonalization leads to
an extension of dignity.
No, you said
the depersonalization.
yeah.
Then everything just becomes a commodity
like
for
some
your
kind of
enjoyment.
abuse?
I didn't say that.
You said
Yeah,
something.
abuse. It just becomes everything's a commodity for me to buy and sell and use. We do that to human beings.
That's always the strategy behind like colonization and stuff. The different kinds of imperialism, right? It's like these people
We've got to
know
help
anything.
these people. We've got to extend. They're so uneducated. They're so they've heathens. Yeah, of course.
Soulless, whatever.
Yeah. Or for anybody in junior high school, like that guy used me, or I feel used.
Yeah.
No one wants to feel used because we are being depersonalized. We are being used. It comes right back to liquid beauty, doesn't it?
I've
back to
yet to
beauty.
recognize that connection, but Go ahead.
You didn't put those parts together?
Put it
This is
together
full
for me.
circle with the vasus.
Okay.
We can't use people. I feel used for my
Right.
body.
So
or
like in
used
that,
for my-
just to, now that you've gone back there, but just to kind of spell out the logic in that story, because I imagine some people might hear it and said, what? I don't get it. Why would he want that though?
People
Because in
didn't
other
get that
words,
story. I thought that was very obvious. This
I
is my
mean,
beauty. It's in a jar.
yeah, no, I wasn't interested in your, bodily excretions. I was interested in your body or something, But yes, it's kind of like saying, you know, but it's like saying, you saw me before and you thought I was beautiful, and you see me now and I'm not beautiful. What's the difference? Here's the difference.
Maybe I didn't tell that story well enough.
Well, whatever. But,
Mara,
but
did the point get across, Mara?
Yeah, I think the point got across.
okay, I'm just
Okay.
further clarifying. There might be
Yeah.
some,
Okay.
So you're saying that he was seeing basically her just as a body rather than as a person.
Right. If that's what you're really interested in, I can give you that. It's saved in these jars.
Right.
Boom.
Here's the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was saying here, the vasus are elemental parts of nature. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but they're beings, and that's
Yeah,
a nice
it's
way
a great
that
point.
the
In
Vedic-
other words,
the Vedic,
if we see the earth as a mother,
yeah,
then
it's a real,
we treat her in a very different way than if we just see it as a big pile of resources that we can exploit.
exactly a big
Yeah.
pile of resources. That's a nice way to put it.
So here's the purport. Uddhava is one of the eternal associates of Krishna. And a plenary portion of Uddhava, and this is a little difficult to understand, right? But in other words, it's saying that Uddhava is someone that's always a devotee of Krishna. But a plenary portion of him, he could in some way expand his conscious awareness and be embodied in another form as one of the vasus. So as an associate of Krishna, he was given that responsibility. He didn't give up his presence with Krishna, but he also simultaneously could be present in another form, apparently. So Uddhava is one of the eternal associates of the Lord, and a plenary portion of Uddhava was one of the 8 vasus in the days of yore. The 8 vasus and the demigods in the upper planetary system, who are responsible for the management of the universal affairs, performed a sacrifice in the days of yore, desiring to fulfill their respective ultimate goals in life. At that time, an expansion of Uddhava, acting as one of the vasus, desired to become an associate of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord knew this because he is present in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma, the superconsciousness. All right. In everyone's heart, there is the representation of the superconsciousness, who gives memory to the partial consciousness of every living entity. So he's saying there's 2 kinds of consciousness. There's partial consciousness, which is us, the jivas, the individual souls. And then there's super consciousness, and that's the Paramatma, right? We have, like, my consciousness is limited to my body. Krishna as Paramatma is consciousness of everybody, right? If I'm hungry right now, I know because my consciousness pervades my entire body, but Raghunath's consciousness doesn't pervade my body. You don't know if I'm hungry right now, right?
No.
Okay. And I don't know if you're hungry. Because my consciousness is limited to my body. Paramatma is super consciousness. It's everywhere. So again, he says, in the heart, there is the representation of the super consciousness. And what does he do? He gives memory to the partial consciousness of every living entity. The living entity, as partial consciousness, forgets incidents from his past life, but the super consciousness reminds him how to act in terms of past cultivation of knowledge. This gets back to the baby
Interesting.
turtles, right?
It gets back to Surviving Death, the Netflix documentary. 'Cause some of these spirit souls do remember their previous lives.
Yeah, okay. Rarely, very rarely some.
It is rare,
remnant
but
may
they
be there.
do.
Some remnant may be there.
Uh,
But the point
there
is,
is a-
everybody, the idea here is that when you take on the next body, then the Paramatma is there to remind you to pick up where you were leaving off. You desired something, I'm going to provide it to you. And now pick up from where your desire left off. Right?
Fascinating.
Yeah. So he says the living entity as partial consciousness forgets incidents of his past life, but the superconsciousness reminds them how to act in terms of their past cultivation of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita confirms this fact in various ways. Ye yata mam prapadyante, tangs tataiva bhajamyaham, text 411, as well
As they
text,
surrender to me, I award
reward them
accordingly.
Yeah.
Great
then-
verse, isn't it?
It's a great verse. And then sarvasya chaham hridishana vishto matasmrtir jnanam apohanam cha. I'm in the heart of every living entity, right? And from me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness, right? So Prabhupada goes on, everyone is at liberty to desire as they like, but the desire is fulfilled by the Supreme Lord, right? Our freedom is to desire, but really that's the scope of what we can do, because sometimes our desires are fulfilled and sometimes they aren't. But what we're at liberty to do is to desire. And that becomes real important for the yogi, to understand what is the realm of my true influence. It really lies in my desire. Now he says, everyone is independent to think or desire, but the fulfillment of one's desire depends on the supreme will. This law is expressed as man proposes, God disposes.
It's a great one. Man proposes, God
disposes.
disposes.
I can desire, but ultimately the
Right.
results, no matter how much I try, ultimately I'm not the only figure in that equation. Ultimately it has to be sanctioned. So in the days of yore, when the demigods and the vasus performed sacrifice, Uddhava was one of the vasus, who was one of the vasus, desired to enter into the association of the Lord, which is very difficult for those busy in empiric philosophical speculation, the Gyanis, or fruitive activities, the karmis. Such persons have practically no information of the facts about becoming an associate of the Lord. Only the pure devotees can know, by the mercy of the Lord, that the personal association of the Lord is the highest perfection of all life. The Lord assured Uddhava that he would fulfill his desire. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord. So it was by witnessing this conversation that Maitreya's realization went from like Jnani to Bhakta.
By the association of the devotees. The refinement of our desires towards bhakti is what sort of sometimes we figure like, well, everything is just on chance and it's by fate, it's by destiny. But I think a big part of our work is a refining of our desires more and more and more and more and more. I think this is where this idea of like this, the power of intention comes in, because there's always this thing, the power of intention versus your fate. And so maybe a new age community will say, no, it's all in your intention. You'll get whatever your intention is. That's what you're just going to get. And then there other fatalists would say, no, it's just your karma. It's got nothing to do with your intention. You can intend it, but your karma is not going to let you have it. And it's sort of like an interesting balance of both. We have some karma, and then we have our refined desires and intentions. And I found that sometimes we do have to live out our karma, but Krishna gives you explicitly what you need for your karma. And sometimes Krishna will even like put a ceiling on your karma. Like he won't give you what you're even destined to get if he thinks it's going to hurt your spiritual life. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this?
I think I do. I hope I do. But yeah, in other words, let's just get back to let's look at the formula. Basically, what's being said is how things work. Is that we, like, if you just take this phrase, "Man proposes, God disposes." The idea is an interesting thing here, and an interesting thing to consider is, in one sense, like if Prabhupada quoted this verse 411, "Ye yata mam prapadyante," as all approach me, I reward them accordingly. I may approach God for the things of this world. And he's saying, I'm going to give you that. And not only approach him like I may not even recognize I'm approaching him, because really what's being said is all I have to do is desire, and the Paramatma recognizes that desire, right? I may not even think about God. I'm just thinking about enjoying the things of this world. And the Paramama is like saying, is that what you desire? If that's what you desire, that's what I'll give you, right? So, but where that leads to, like our fate, our destiny, there's another element in that equation. And it's not only what we desire, but it's what we deserve, and that's called karma, right? So, like if I've accumulated good karma, then that desire gets fulfilled, maybe more in the way that I pictured, But if I have a low bank account of good karma, then the same desire gets fulfilled in another way, right? Is that leading towards your point?
Yeah. Sometimes I find like it doesn't matter what you desire. If you're desiring something material, you may not get it. If you desire, I got sort of thrown off track.
Okay.
I'm gonna hand off the ball to you again.
Well, let's just think about this. Is that, and I think it's real important to think like this, because really, the way that the Bhakti-yogi is thinking is that my desires will be. Sometimes you go to Vrindavan, right? And they say, like every tree is a desire tree, you can fulfill desires.
You ever hug a tree and ask for something material? Please give it. Let's see if this works.
But the point is like it's almost like we have a desire tree with us all the time, because the Paramamas, they're ready to fulfill desires, ready to fulfill desires. And so what we really need to now, again, how those desires play out may not be exactly the way that let's just take it, say someone's desire like sexual enjoyment is a common desire, right? Fundamental desire. That desire may dominate. That may be my most prized desire, right? And if it is, then how that plays out will depend on my karma. Like if I've accumulated good karma, then I may be born in a attractive human body. I may be born in a body like in the heavens, where like it's super attractive and there's great facility for sexual enjoyment without all the difficulties and problems of this world. And if I have mediocre karma, I might be born, like relatively attractive, in this world. And if my karma is like more meager still, my good karma, then like there's facility for sexual enjoyment in so many different species, right? The pigeon, right, which is quite sexually active, but it's just like a lower level, karmic destination, right? But the point being is that Krishna is there just fulfilling desires as we want. So the yogi says, what I really need to do is refine what I desire. I need to really concentrate on that. I pulled out a quote. It's a really interesting quote. This is a good wisdom nugget. This is a good takeaway for the day. You ready?
What you got?
This is from Francois de la Roquefoucauld.
Who is?
Sure, I'm butchering that. One of our Canadians can help us with that. He's a French writer from like centuries ago. I don't know very much about him.
Okay.
Apparently quite influential. But he said, before we set our hearts too much upon anything, let us examine how happy those are who already possess it.
I like that, Francois.
Yes. Right? Before we set our hearts too much upon anything, let us examine how happy those are who already possess it.
Très bien, Francois. Très bien. That is a good.
Yeah, so really, you can bring that idea to the practice of bhakti, because the yogi is saying, I look at the materialist, I see how they're caught up in the game, right? That they're pursuing material enjoyment, but when I look at the most successful materialists, I still don't see happy people.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between a deep joy and material success.
Yeah,
I think you can be material successful and be joyful also, but I think there's a difference.
they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
But material success does not equal happiness, and that's proven again and again.
not necessarily. Yeah,
Right. So then the yogi says, okay, and like you're saying, you can find many quotes from the Eastern tradition, from different teachers and so on, that will say basically that all desire must be eliminated to achieve true happiness or true enlightenment,
Sure.
bliss, whatever, right? That you must eliminate all desire. Now, what the Bhakti yogis are going to say and what the Bhagavatam is going to say is no, it's not quite like that. Sometimes you might find an Upanishadic verse that's going to talk about desire very broadly. Like it won't take the time to like spell out every nuance. So it'll speak of the problem with desire, but that doesn't mean all desire, right? That's speaking of material desire. And so, like you're saying with you take a ball and you're in the water and you push the ball down. You can hold it down, but at a certain point you have to let go and it's going to pop right back up. Right? And material desire is like that. So the Bhakti yogi is recognizing, I don't need to eliminate desire. That's like negating something that's real, but that has been transformed or, warped in some way.
I mean, we can see that our desires have caused problems in the past.
Yes.
And therefore the natural next move is I just got to stop desiring. I got to stop those things.
That's
I've
the
got
logic.
I've got a food issue, so I'm just going to stop eating, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's that pendulum swing that keeps the addict an addict, or keeps the person still deeply attached to the thing they're trying to avoid. It doesn't actually assist them in their evolution. So we just say, refine your choices. I always try to take credit. I'm just parroting. With
Well,
the
you're
Bhakti
part of the
masters.
we. You're doing it. So.
Part of the we, I guess. Yeah. We say, refine your choices and you refine your life. Refine your choice, you refine your life. Refine your desires and you refine your life. You can't hold your desires underwater. They're real. Well, it's obvious. I eat crappy food all the time. I have to refine that choice.
You don't have to stop
It doesn't mean I
eating.
have to stop eating. Yeah, it means I have to eat better food. Every time I get around friends, I gossip and I speak ill of other people. So you know what I should do? Stop talking. I mean, I can understand how people who have every relationship I have is low grade, every conversation I have, the workplace, I'm in is degrading. No, well, stop degrading relationships. Stop being part of a degrading workplace. Stop degrading conversation.
Yeah.
Have those same things, but in a refined way. And that's what we're sort of doing. We're just sort of like flipping the switch, like the guy in the train. But now the train is no longer going south. I pulled the switch. The train is going north. The train's still going.
Right.
But it's what we do with what we got that makes the Bhakti yogi.
Nice. I'll read you a little quote here. And this is from our old friend, Chaitanya Charan, right?
Ooh, I like
the
him.
spiritual scientist.
Spiritual scientist. You know what's interesting? Sometimes I'll meet random people. It's like, I'm looking for a guru. I'm looking for, you know what I do? I was like,
Chaitanya
Google
Charan.
search Chaitanya Charan. Let him be
He's
your
got all
guru.
the answers.
He's got all. Go to him.
He explains everything so clear.
He's so clear, and he's
Yes. So this is what he says about desire. He says, what we need to do is not curb desire, but to cure desire by changing what we desire. We are at our core spiritual beings who long for lasting love, lasting life, and lasting joy. He's saying that's what you can't root that out, But unfortunately, we are seeking all that at the material level, where it will never be found because here everything is temporary. To find lasting happiness, we need to raise our consciousness to the spiritual level and desire the supreme spiritual reality, Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita 10:41 explains that everything that triggers our desires manifests from a spark of Krishna's splendor. Right? Whatever it is in this world that we desire, that beautiful, like that take it right back to liquid beauty, right?
It always goes back to liquid beauty, doesn't it?
Right. So
all the time.
This man desired this woman, but the form that he was so attracted to was just a spark of Krishna's beauty, right? So the Bhagavad Gita 10:41 explains that everything that triggers our desire manifests is a spark of Krishna's splendor. We need to redirect our desires from the sparks to the sun, right? To the source of the sparks, right? I desire the things of this world. I need to desire the source of this world. I need to desire connecting with that rather than connecting with what manifests from it. He says we need to focus. This is real good right here. We need to focus not so much on the desires that we have to curb, but on the desires that we need to cultivate. And this is real key to the practice of bhakti, right? In other words, if I develop my attraction to God, I'll easily let go of the material desires rather than trying to annihilate them with cold analysis and renunciation, which is the Jnanic path. Right? So we need to focus not so much on the desires that we have to curb, but on the desires that we need to cultivate, the desire to connect with Krishna in the manifestations we find attractive, and the desire to re-envision our entire life as service to Him. And the more we cultivate such healthy desires, we'll become so enriched and energized by that Krishna connection that our unhealthy desires will gradually decline and disappear from our heart. Not bad, right?
The Krishna connection.
The Krishna connection. So he summarizes it as saying that we desire can't be cured, but what we desire. I'm sorry, let me say this right. That we desire can't be curbed, but what we desire can be cured.
I like
And
that.
that's the path. That's the most effective and dynamic path of yoga. Like that?
Was that my cue?
Could have been. You just kind of. I
dance
thought
button.
we're getting to that point in the show. I thought
That
you
was
might have
pretty good. That was a
queuing it
pretty
up
good
there.
ending point.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought someone was going to say something about Goethe or okay. Weren't we waiting on you, Mara, for some answer to some?
Oh yeah,
question?
was he
Were
right
you
about
doing
the
some fact
ficus and the
checking?
banyan and the?
Oh yeah, we were
Well,
waiting for that.
there's the banyan. A banyan is a type of ficus, and the peepal tree is also a ficus, but they're not exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Speculation.
Speculation.
We also have a.
Sorry about that, Raghu. You see the desire in me to correct another? It's so deep rooted, Got to work that out. Raghu, they're
But you
really
got-
close, though. They're really similar. That's, and you pointed that out, and I appreciate that.
There's
Mara?
a asana class at 10 a.m. with Jeffrey Newberger today, and a men's Bhakti recovery group at 11.
All right, that's because our show is. What is it again? It is
A daily yoga podcast? What are you looking
Community supported.
Community supported podcast. If you want to support the community, go to our Patreon page. It really helps us do this, and we love to do it. We love to do it. We've become addicted to this show in a wonderful way. So go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. Give a monthly pledge. We really appreciate it. And I got an announcement. I've got a pilgrimage going out to Nepal. If you like trekking through the Himalayas, we're doing it. And that is happening in April. We've got a big group, a cool group going. April 8th through the 20th, including King of Hearts is coming. Zeb's coming. Zeb's here today. Paramananda's trying to come. But yeah, we got a great posse. And also my autumn pilgrimage is up and going. Kaustubha, we're going to Jagannath Puri this year.
Great.
One of our favorite places. And that's happening November 3rd through November 16th to Sacred India. And India is doing amazing with COVID. Have you been following that?
Yeah, nobody knows exactly why, but it's just
No one
gone.
knows why, but everyone's getting better in India. Did anybody find any numbers about anybody dying from that flood, though? That was horrible. And it doesn't make the news in America. It's unbelievable. But prayers are going out to the flood that happened up in Uttarakhand.
Hmm.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Prayers and love to all our community. Thanks for keeping me reading the Bhagavatam every morning. Very grateful to everybody here. Now let's do what I'm not a great dancer, but I just like to dance just for the heck of dancing. And I like the fact that it's part of our daily routine that we have to dance. If you really want to be on this Zoom show, you got to do the dancing because we get that camera on you, and then it's quite awkward if we catch you and not dancing. And Mara will go right for the non-dancers.